If you are enjoying this video, smash that like button, subscribe. Hit the bell button and share with your friends and let me know in the comments where are you watching from. Every like and subscribe helps the channel grow. Some loads you never get to drop. Hoff, they stick with you, haunt you. Linger in the back of your rig like ghosts made of smoke and regret. This story? It ain't for the faint of heart. My name's Ray Holloway. Been hauling freight across the country for over 25 years. Seen things bad. Wrecks, storms, breakdowns in places so remote, your GPS just gives up. But nothing prepared me for the run I took that night. The last load I ever hauled alone. The one no dispatch wanted to admit was real. You see, there's a stretch of highway they don't talk about in route planning. Some say it doesn't even exist on a map. But if you're driving after midnight, real tired, real low, you might find it anyway. And once you're on it, you don't leave. Not the same anyway, they call it dead miles. Dispatch came in from a scratchy line. It was nearly 9 p.m, late to start a haul. I was sitting at a truck stop outside. Wichita nursing bad coffee and worse knees. Ray, the voice crackled. We got a hot load eastbound. Needs to be in West Virginia by Monday, no stops, pays triple. Triple? That was already strange. Freight rates had been garbage for months. What's the route? I asked. Long pause. GPS will reroute you past Topeka. You'll take a connector through Route 33, I blinked. For there's no Route 33 that far east. Another pause, then, you'll see it, I should have said no. Instead, I nodded. Send it through. The manifest came through, but half of it was blank. No origin address, just the destination. Ashfield Depot, WV, hit the road by 10:30 p.m. My trailer groaned behind me like it already knew something I didn't. It was after midnight when I saw him. Somewhere east of Kansas City, fog started creeping in. Real thick, like smoke rolling low over a battlefield. I slowed down. My headlights caught a figure on the shoulder. A man in a trucker cap, face down, duffel bag at his feet. I moved to the left lane, figuring he was broken down. Then he turned. His head without moving his body. Eyes glowing faint red. I swerved, heart slamming against my ribs. When I looked in the mirror, nothing. Not the man. Not even the bag. Just my own taillights blinking in the fog. I told myself I was tired. Just needed caffeine. I should have turned around. Should have called it in, but I didn't. I kept driving. The GPS rerouted around 2:45 a.m. Take exit 77, the robotic voice said. Turn onto Route 33. Except there was no exit sign. No lights, just a dirt road disappearing into darkness. I don't know why I listened, but I did. The road narrowed. Trees leaned in overhead like they were watching me pass. I drove for miles, not a single other car, not even an animal on the side of the road. Then I saw the mile marker. Just the number, painted in red, on a crooked wooden post. And I swear underneath it was scratched. No way back. I found the diner around 4 a.m. Sign said, Sandy's. Neon letters flickering like they were gasping for power. I hadn't eaten since Kansas, and my hands were shaking. Inside, it looked like it hadn't changed since the 50s. Checkered floor, red booths, old jukebox playing static. There were people, but they didn't look right. A man at the counter had no reflection in the window behind him. A woman stirred her coffee over and over, never sipping. The waitress smiled as I sat. You're late, Ray. I froze. How do you know my name? She just winked. Truckers always pass through, some sooner than others. When I checked the mirror behind the bar, I saw myself sitting with her, talking, laughing, like we were old friends. But I was right here, awake. I left half the coffee and ran. The road. Outside stretched longer than before. They appeared at dawn, 4 trucks. Matte black, no license plates. They pulled in behind me, perfect formation. No one passed, no one fell behind. I tried the CB. Breaker 1-9, you boys behind me got ears on? No answer, just static. Then, you can't outrun what follows you, Ray. The voice wasn't mine, wasn't even human. They followed me for 40 miles. Never lost formation. Never used their lights, just silent steel shadows. Then, they vanished. I looked down. My odometer had rolled back to 0. After the convoy vanished, silence settled in like a fog inside the cab. Then the CB crackled. Not static, not trucker talk, music, old country, twangy, warped, like it was playing from a melted cassette. Then came the voice. "You're further in than most, Ray." I froze. The voice was slow, deep, gravel in its tone, but not unkind. Like someone who'd been out there too long. "Who is this?" "They call me the radio man. I ride the airwaves. I've seen every soul that's tried to outrun their past on this road. I didn't sign up for this," I said. "You don't choose dead miles. It chooses you." Then, like wind through dead leaves. "Keep your eyes on the road. It remembers when..." You look away. The channel cut out. I kept my eyes locked forward, but my hands were shaking. The trailer shifted behind me, not from a turn, not from a bump, from inside. At first I thought it was cargo settling, but the manifest had only listed non-perishable freight. Another thump. Then scratching. I pulled over just outside an abandoned gas station. Didn't want to, but something inside told me if I didn't check, it'd come for me anyway. I opened the back. Nothing but crates, shrink-wrapped, no sign of movement. Then I heard her, a voice, soft, childlike. "Mister, help me." I turned, and there she was, pale, soaked in blood from the waist down, eyes wide like saucers. "I can't get out," she whispered. I stumbled back, heart screaming, but when I blinked, she was gone. I slammed the doors and bolted. My mirrors stayed fogged for hours after, like they were hiding what was really behind me. Mile marker 66. A sign appeared out of nowhere. "Welcome to Greystone, Esther. 1888. I didn't recall passing any junction. But the road bent suddenly, and the whole town came into view like it was dropped from the sky. Victorian buildings, shuttered windows, street lamps glowing blue. I thought maybe it was a hallucination. I hadn't slept, but when I drove in, the rig slowed on its own. Like it wanted to stop. I parked near the post office, no people, but the sound of whispers filled the air, like wind talking in circles. Then I saw them, figures behind glass, watching, not blinking. Eyes glowing faint amber. I tried to leave, tried to reverse. My truck wouldn't start. On the CB, the radio man whispered, "You have to offer it something to leave." I left my wedding ring on the sidewalk. Don't ask me why. The truck started on its own. I never looked back. It was getting cold inside the cab. Too cold. Like winter in August. And then the hallucinations began. I saw my father, dead 20 years, sitting in the passenger seat. "You ever think maybe this life took more than it gave, Ray?" he said, smiling like he used to on Sunday mornings. I shook my head. "You're not real." He laughed, bitter. "Neither are you out here." I blinked, and the seat was empty again. The CB crackled again. This time, a woman's voice. "My name's Lila. I died here in 83, buried in the gravel past mile marker 77. Don't make my mistake, Ray. Don't stop when the voices call your name." Then the static screeched, so loud it bled my ears. I looked down. I had blood on my hands, but I hadn't been cut. It was hers. Somewhere between mile 80 and 81, the temperature dropped below freezing. In August, frost crept along the inside of my windshield. My breath fogged the cab, and then the engine died. Dead silence. I stepped out, flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam cut through thick fog barely, and then I saw them, dozens of people. Lining the woods, still watching, some missing limbs, some with hollow faces, some with my face. A man stepped forward. His shirt bore the logo of my old company, Holloway Hauling. He was me, or what I'd become if I never left this road. "You're next," he said. "We all break down eventually." He reached for me. I jumped back in the cab and hit the ignition. It started on the first try. The figures vanished, but the cold stayed with me. The road changed again after mile 98. Asphalt gave way to gravel, and the sky turned the color of old. Bruises. My lights barely pierced the gloom. Then I saw the signs, hundreds of them. Makeshift crosses, roadside memorials. all jammed along the shoulder like someone had buried an army. Each one bore a name, some fresh, some weathered and rotted. I stopped when I saw mine. Ray Holloway, 1963-2025. The date was tomorrow. My breath caught. A bell rang, distant, deep, and from the woods the ground began to shift. Hands rose, broken, burned, bones clacked like wind chimes. I hit the gas. As I drove, dirt-covered figures clawed at my rig from the trees, trying to climb aboard. I didn't stop until the road turned. Black again and the air stopped whispering. But I left something behind, a piece of me maybe. I looked down at the odometer. It had jumped, skipped, straight from mile 107 to 109. I pulled the logbook, checked my digital trip counter. Same. Something had erased a mile of road, and then I started to forget. My daughter's birthday, my first rig's name, my wedding song. Gone. Every memory I tried to recall from that skipped mile vanished. Fatih, CB crackled again. Dead miles don't just take your road, said the radio man. They take your past, strip you to the bone. He paused. You keep driving, Ray, you'll forget who you were. I gripped the wheel tighter. What happens? If I stop? The radio hissed. Then you'll remember everything. I finally stopped near an abandoned way station. A storm was building, sky torn open by lightning, but no thunder. Just silence. I checked the manifest again. This time, the screen flickered. Where it once said, non-perishable freight, now it read, sole payload, 17 units remaining. Each unit had a timestamp, a name. One was mine. Another was Lila. The voice from the CBI scrolled further. Every name matched someone I'd seen on this road. Everyone. Now dead. I tried to delete the manifest. The screen blinked. You cannot undeliver what's been claimed. Ashfield wasn't a town. It was a cliffside depot. At the top stood a lighthouse, even though there was no ocean for hundreds of miles. Its light pulsed red. Like a heartbeat. I pulled in. A figure stood by the loading dock. Tall, wearing a long black coat, face hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat. You're the last rig of the night, he said. Who are you? Terminal master. He pointed toward the lighthouse. Your delivery goes up there. I'm not delivering souls, I said. He tilted his head. You already have. He raised a hand, and my trailer doors swung open. Voices poured out, screaming, crying, laughing madly. They swirled around me, then flew toward the lighthouse. I fell to my knees. It was done. But something inside me cracked, because the final voice I heard was mine. There's one way off Dead Miles, one final exit. They call it Exit Zero, no signs, no lights, just a turn that opens when you give up the wheel. I took it, let the rig roll. The road faded into darkness. The next thing I knew, I was parked outside. A diner in Ohio. Sun rising, no trailer, no manifest. Just a note on the dash. You made the run, don't do it again. I tried to tell dispatch. They said I was off-grid for 3 hours. Not 3 days, no one believed me, but I can still hear them, the ones I hold. They whisper through the CB sometimes. They know I'm still driving, still haunted, still watching that rearview mirror, because on Dead Miles, you're never really done. 2 weeks after I escaped, I got a call, unknown number. Unknown. Answered out of habit, static. Then, Ray Holloway, return hall initiated, manifest incomplete. I threw the phone out the window. Didn't matter. The same message played on the radio the next day. Then the TV. Then the mirror. I walked into the garage to check my truck. She was back. Same Freightliner. Same blood-smeared trailer. Keys in the ignition. I didn't put them there. But I climbed in, like always. The world changed once I started moving again. Not just the road, the reality. Around it, signs turned to symbols, gas stations became shrines, time bled. I'd leave at midnight and arrive at 3 p.m. the same day, last week. The CB only broadcasted one word now. Hall. I passed a church that bled from the steeple, a rest stop with a diner full of people chewing glass like candy, a way station, where the attendant weighed my soul and told me it was decaying fast. I tried to turn back. The wheel wouldn't move. Not all the truckers out here were victims, some liked it, called themselves the hallmates, tatted with route maps, inked in blood. Always drove with their lights off, smiled too wide. They circled me. Outside a truck stop made entirely of bone. New route, one asked. Same old run, I muttered. He laughed. Ain't no same runs on dead miles. Every haul's a baptism. He flicked his cigarette at my tire. It burned blue, didn't go out. When I left, they followed, but not to kill me. To watch, like they were waiting for me to break. Picked up a hitcher at mile 144. Didn't stop for him. He just appeared in the passenger seat, long coat, pale hands, no face, just a mouth, grinning. I'm your relief driver, he said. I laughed, hollow. I don't get breaks. He leaned close. No, you get judgments. The road twisted like a serpent beneath us. He whispered stories about every soul I'd hauled. The mother who ran over her baby and buried it behind a diner. The man who turned his entire rig into a coffin. Then he looked at me. What did you do, Ray? I couldn't answer. But he knew. He always knew. Somewhere past mile 150, the road dipped. Not downhill, under, tunnels carved in obsidian. Walls that breathed. I passed signs in Latin and screams that came from beneath the pavement. My truck started to melt. Not physically, existentially, like I could see through the steel, through myself. I wasn't driving a vehicle anymore. Was steering a reputation. I saw the face of every person I'd wronged, every driver I cut off, every late delivery that caused a chain of chaos. The road remembers, out here. The road judges. Mile 160, a black horizon. No road, no sky, just a circular platform surrounded by freight containers stacked 50 high, glowing red from within. I parked in the center. The radio man stood waiting, but he wasn't just a man, he was the road. He was every soul ever hauled. He opened his coat and showed me a void where his heart should be. You can stay here, Ray, be part of it, the forever haul. Or, he smiled, or you keep running until you're the ghost in someone else's trailer. The lights blinked. The choice was mine. I chose to drive. Didn't know why, maybe I was scared of stopping. Maybe I already was the ghost in someone else's trailer, but the moment I hit the gas, the road vanished behind me. No lines, no dashes, just endless blacktop. The GPS stopped working. So did the clock. I drove blind. Hours, days, maybe longer. Fuel never dropped. Sleep never came, and something new sat in the sleeper cab, didn't move. Didn't speak, but I knew it was watching me. That's what dispatch called it. The Route 666 incident. Said a dozen rigs went missing across a 300-mile stretch in one night. No bodies, just trucks, empty, doors open, engines cold, except one, mine. I pulled into the way station at mile 177. The man behind the glass screamed the moment he saw me. You're not supposed to be here. Then he vanished. Like smoke. I looked down. My reflection in the chrome bumper was smiling. I wasn't. He stood there just past mile 180, white hat, blood-soaked badge, holding a stop sign that dripped something black. Can't go further, Ray. Why? Not? Because that's where the truth lives. I revved the engine. Truth's overdue. He laughed. You really want to know what you've been hauling? I nodded. He dropped the sign. Then keep going. But remember, some doors only open from the inside. When I opened the back of the trailer, I expected horror. But it wasn't bodies, or ghosts, or bones. It was mirrors. Each one showed me. Versions of me. The coward, the cheat, the addict. The liar. The one who left when she begged me to stay. The father who failed. The son who disappointed. 17 mirrors, 17 selves. And in the back, a crate. I opened it. Inside was a steering wheel, melted, warped, blackened by flame. The nameplate read, Raymond Holloway, Final Delivery. The road never ends. That's the secret. Dead miles loops. Once you've seen the end, it brings you back. But twisted, different. Same gas stations, but stocked with grief. Same diners, but everyone eats their memories. Same sky, but it watches now. I saw my truck parked at the same diner from the beginning. But I was in it, and he looked up and smiled at me. I realized then I wasn't the driver anymore. I was the haul. If you're hearing this, it means you've taken the wheel. Maybe you thought this was just a job, a route, a paycheck, but you're on the same road now. Dead miles. You'll see the same things. The girl in the trailer, the faceless hitcher, the burning convoy. You'll meet the radio man. And one day, you'll make your final delivery. Until then, keep the lights on. Keep your eyes forward. And never, ever, look in the rear view after midnight, because that's where I am now. Watching, waiting, riding with you. I thought it was over. I thought I'd escaped. But then the rain started falling again, thick like oil, and the puddles spelled my name, Ray. Haul again, he ignored it, until I saw my logbook had written a new entry. I hadn't touched it. Next load. Undelivered Echo's destination. Unknown. Cargo weight. Variable. Manifest. U. They came for me just after midnight. Trucks made of rust and bone. Cab lights dim and bleeding. Engines coughing up soot and teeth. They didn't speak, didn't honk. Just circled my house. My doorbell rang once. On the porch was a key, black, heavy. Tagged with one word. Reclaimed. I knew what that meant. Dead miles doesn't ask twice. It repossesses. I drove. Where to? Didn't matter. The highway bent beneath. My wheels. Deeper, darker than any map could track. There was no GPS. No light. No sound. Then I saw it. Carved into the asphalt, like it had always been there. The original Path Only One rig ever made it down this far. They say he never returned. But some nights you can still hear him, talking to himself, or maybe talking to his cargo. They weren't quiet anymore. The souls in the trailer started whispering. At first it was names, dates, then secrets. I heard my wife's voice, saying she knew what I'd done in Idaho. Heard my mother, saying I never should have left Dad on that hospital bed. Heard my own voice telling me to jump the median and end it all. The trailer had no insulation anymore. It had memory. Mile 204, a rest stop, glowing red. Like it was alive. Inside, nothing but mirrors and vending machines full of dreams people forgot they had. I saw myself inside the bathroom, not my reflection. Me, shaking, crying, holding a loaded revolver. He looked up at me. I've been waiting. To pull the trigger for 6 years, he whispered. But the road won't let me. He handed me the gun. I didn't take it, but the weight of it stayed in my chest. One night the CB kicked back on. Channel 19. My old haunt. Ray, you out there? The voice was mine, younger, cocky, alive. I looked at the mirror. My face was older. Then I remembered. Ray, the voice said again, I'm stuck in a loop. The brakes won't work. I think I'm going to crash. Then silence, then screaming metal, then nothing. I looked down. The odometer was counting backward. Mile 212. The air changed. It smelled old, like dust from a library where the books scream when opened. The sky was grey velvet, no stars. The road pulsed beneath the tires, thump, 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 like it had a heartbeat. I stopped to check. The engine. Under the hood, something moved. Fast. I dropped the light. When I looked up, the road had changed. Not physically, but emotionally. It knew me now. It was calling me by name. She was sitting at the edge of a foggy overpass. Short hair. Yellow jacket. Hands covered in ink. She didn't look up when I approached. You're the one who's been ghosting the line, she said. What line? She pointed behind me. There was nothing there. There used to be rules, she whispered. Then someone paved over the graveyard, built the highway on top. It opened something that should have stayed shut. She pulled out a map made of leather. Human, probably. It had only one road on it. Dead miles. It's still growing, she said, and it feeds on unfinished business. I kept driving until I saw them, trucks, hundreds of them, parked in a lot that stretched across a dead forest. All their trailers were open. Empty except one. It was humming, like something inside was dreaming. I climbed up, looked in. It was me, younger again, crying. holding the steering wheel with white-knuckled. Fear, he looked at me. You never told her goodbye. Then he vanished. I slammed the trailer shut, but the hum stayed inside me. Mile 229. I saw a green sign, Exit 66. Home, my heart jumped. It was the house, the driveway. My old dog sitting on the porch like it was still 2005. I turned off the highway, pulled, and cut the engine. Peace, silence. Then the house door opened and I saw me walk out, holding a shotgun, screaming, "You left us to burn." I floored it back to the highway. As I merged onto the ramp, I glanced in the mirror. My reflection was still on that porch, bleeding, grinning. At mile 240, the rig stopped on its own. The trailer opened. Inside were papers, dozens, hundreds, stamped, signed manifest sheets. Every one of them was someone I'd driven past, ignored, cut off, left behind, victims of time, chance. Me, I flipped to the last page. Manifest, number 999. Driver, Holloway, our cargo. All unspoken truths. All unrealized guilt. Delivery, status, failed. I tried to tear the paper. It screamed, "There's a toll booth." Now it wasn't here before, stone-built, wrapped in rusted chains. The man inside wears no eyes, just 2 pits full of headlights. "Toll's due, driver." "I don't have any money." "No," he said, "but you've got memories." He slid a hand through the window. I gave him one. "My daughter's first." Words, he smiled. "Pass." As I drove on, I realized I couldn't remember her voice anymore. Mile 244, rain slicing sideways. A hitchhiker stood at the edge of the shoulder, soaking wet, head bowed, thumb raised. I never stop. But something about him. I pulled over. He climbed in without a word, shut the door slowly and stared straight ahead. Then he said it. "You don't remember me, do you?" I looked closer. His face was a blur, like static. "Should I?" He nodded. "You passed me on Route 19 in 2003. I was bleeding out. You didn't stop." He turned to me. "And I'm not the only one you left behind." He handed me a small recorder, covered in rust, bent, still playing. My voice crackled through it, panicked, screaming, "No brakes! God, no!" Then a sound, like bones snapping underwater. Then silence. He looked at me. "That's not from the past." He opened the glove box. Inside was another version of the device, identical, except the timestamp read, "Tomorrow." 42 a.m. At the 250th mile, I found a place no truck should ever go. Stone arches, bells that rang with no wind, figures in robes carved from asphalt. They let me in, no words, just silence. I followed a hallway into a circular chamber. In the center sat a truck engine, ancient, fossilized, but still warm. On the walls were names, thousands of them, drivers all missing. I found mine halfway up, still glowing, still waiting. The monks never spoke, but I heard them in my head. To leave the road, you must first leave yourself. It was parked across the lane, same make, same model, same scratches, same chipped paint. It was my rig. I climbed inside, my gear still in place. CB radio buzzing. "Ray?" A voice crackled. "Ray, it's me." From earlier. I blinked. It was me, but from Part 1. He was panicking, saying things I didn't remember. I reached for the mic. Before I could speak, he screamed, and the truck lit up with blue fire. When I came to, I was still in my truck, but the hands on the wheel weren't mine. She stepped out from behind her. Gas station that didn't exist 2 seconds before, slick black suit, skin like cracked vinyl, a briefcase full of shifting smoke. "You're nearing the threshold," she said. "What threshold?" "The one between driver and destination." She snapped her fingers. The road twisted upward, spiraling like a DNA strand. "You can keep going, Holloway, but if you hit mile 300, you become part of it." She handed me a contract. It was already signed, blood-red ink, my signature at the bottom, dated 20 years ago. I heard her before I saw her, a child's laughter, playful, wrong. She stood in the middle of the lane, holding a red balloon. I stopped the rig, got out. She ran, into a tunnel carved from headlights and sorrow. I followed. Inside, walls were plastered with old delivery receipts, all with the same destination. Nowhere. I found her standing at the edge of a cliff made of crushed trucks. She turned and said, "You were supposed to bring me home." I didn't remember her, but I believed her. Mile 271. The rig started drifting, like it was caught in a memory. Then I saw it in the mirrors, my own wreck. It was happening behind me, but there was no way it should have been moving. That wreck was from 2010, in Utah. It killed 2. The trailer was jackknifing. Sparks lit up the blacktop. My screams echoed through the CB, not now, but then. I blinked, and for a moment, the cab was full of smoke. Glass shards, oil, blood on my steering wheel then. Just the hum of tires again, but the seatbelt was wet. The horizon lit up in flickers, convoy lights, dozens, maybe hundreds, old-school rigs, mud flaps curling with rot, their horns howling low like hungry wolves. They drove past without headlights. No drivers, just shadows. One of the trailers flapped open for a second, and I swear I saw a hospital bed inside. Someone strapped down, eyes wide, screaming. Then it was gone. My CB radio picked up static, then a whisper. "We were never supposed to make the delivery." A gas station at mile 275, no pumps, just a glowing sign. Receiver. I walked in. It wasn't a convenience store. It was a living room mine, the way it was before the fire. My wife stood by the window, humming. I said her name. She didn't look up, just turned to the toaster, pulled out a charred letter and read it aloud. "You left. You always leave. Even now, especially now." Then she looked at me, but her eyes were burned shut. Mile 280, a chapel built from crashed rigs. Crosses made of rebar, choir of broken horns. I stopped because something pulled me to it. Inside, rows of drivers sat in the pavses, all staring forward. Silent. In place of the altar was a logbook, open, my name written on every line. A priest with no mouth handed me a pen. I didn't sign, but my hand moved anyway. Blood instead of ink. The moment I finished, the pews were empty. But the rigs outside had new plates, all of them read Ray. Suddenly the road looped, backwards. Mile 279, mile 278, mile 279, the signs reversed. The clouds unspun. My rig's odometer ticked downward. The radio started playing an old voicemail. It was from my daughter, a real one. "Daddy, come home. I miss your stories." Then static, then the same message, but wrong. The voice twisted, distorted. "Daddy, stay gone. They like you better here." I slammed the brakes. When I stepped out, the world was black and white, like I'd driven into a memory no one had colorized. 10 miles to go, then he appeared, 10 feet tall, coat made of exit signs, face a map with no roads. "The road must be fed," he said. "I've given enough." "No. You've given guilt, regret. That's fuel. But the payment is still due." He reached for my heart, literally. His hand phased through my chest. I felt every mile I'd driven, every life I passed, every choice I didn't make. Then he let go and said, "You either finish the route, or become part of it." The warden's words stuck with me. You either finish the route or become part of it. As I passed mile 289, something strange happened. I started aging, not physically and mentally. Memories that weren't mine flooded in. Wars I hadn't fought, lovers I never met, places I never drove. But I remembered them all because they were the lives of every driver who never made it to mile 300. And now they were in me. I wasn't alone anymore, but it didn't feel like company. I spotted a glowing neon sign on the horizon, "Debriefing station, drivers only." I pulled off the road and parked. The inside was clean, bright, too perfect. A man in a white uniform waited with a clipboard. He looked like me. He was me, Ray Holloway, manifest complete. "Please confirm final delivery. Guilt, grief, loss, self." "I never agreed to this," he smiled. "You did. When you took the job, Dead Miles isn't just a road, it's a system of filtration, a toll road for the soul." Behind him I saw a giant gear turning, made of crushed trucks and screaming voices. They showed me the paperwork, all of it, pages upon pages, my signature on every one. Dates from before I was born, contracts forged in grief, in mistakes. You've been driving dead miles longer than you think, the other me said. It just took a while for your mind to catch up to your route. He offered me a badge. Become an overseer. Watch the others. Help guide new drivers. I looked at it. It burned cold in my hand, and for the first time I said no. Mile 289. I thought I had no choice but to drive, but as I passed the sign I saw it, a split in the road, a new road, darker, much darker. It didn't show up on any map. The asphalt wasn't cracked, but something about it felt alive, pulsating, throbbing with ancient power. I should have kept going straight, I should have just kept moving, but the moment I made the turn, the fog thickened, as if it was waiting, as if it had called me. I felt it almost immediately. The truck had gained weight. Or maybe I had, it wasn't the cargo. It was the air, the atmosphere pressing down on me. I checked the mirrors, there was no sky, no stars, just the oppressive weight of darkness. I slammed my hand against the steering wheel, trying to wake up, trying to shake off whatever grip this road had on me, and that's when I heard it. A voice. You wanted the truth, Ray. Now you'll take the full load. The trailer door opened again. This time I didn't hesitate. I had to see what was inside. I climbed back to the back of the rig. The fog seemed thicker now. It wrapped around my legs like fingers. I reached for the latch. It was cold. When I pulled it open, there was nothing inside at first. Then the shadows twisted. Figures emerged, one by one, rising from the floor of the trailer like they were born from the air itself. These weren't ghosts. They weren't souls. They were memories, fragments of every life I'd touched, every choice I hadn't made. I saw them in the faces, my wife, my daughter, the people I passed on the road. But it wasn't just faces. It was me. 1,000 versions of myself, all frozen, staring back with hollow eyes. Ray, they whispered in unison, you didn't finish the run. We're the ones who keep you going. The road started to bend. The fog cleared just enough to reveal what lay ahead. There was no more highway, no more asphalt, just a void. A vast, swirling, dark pit that swallowed the road whole. I felt it, pulling me in. And then I saw it. The end. Mile 300. The place no one comes back from. My rig slowed to a crawl. The blacktop ended in a cliff that stretched into eternity. A figure stood at the edge of the abyss. It was the warden, the tall figure in the coat of exit signs. I told you, Ray, he said, voice booming like thunder. This is where you must choose. You can leave or become part of the road. I reached for the door. My hand shook. Leave, I asked. How? Not with your truck, he said. You leave with your soul. I stepped out of the rig. The warden didn't stop me. The air felt heavier. I knew what I had to do. It was time to deliver the cargo. It wasn't just the miles. I'd traveled. It was the weight I had carried, the regrets, the unfinished business. I stood at the edge of the cliff. The shadows behind me stretched like a hand ready to pull me down. A truck engine roared somewhere behind me. I turned. The trailer door was open again. It was calling me. And I knew, deep down, there would be no escape. There was no way off this highway. Stood at the edge of the void. The warden's words echoed in my head like a death rattle. This is where you must choose. You can leave or become part of the road. The wind howled through the black void, whipping my jacket and making the fog swirl around my legs. It felt like the highway was alive, breathing beneath my feet. Behind me, the truck's engine idled, low and persistent. I turned back, half expecting to see the pale, ghostly hand, but it wasn't there anymore. Just the wide-open trailer. The emptiness. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The warden stepped closer. His face, hidden beneath the hood of the exit signs, seemed to flicker with the light from the headlights. You've driven long enough to understand the rules, Ray, he said softly. Every road is a story, every mile a chapter, but the final chapter is always written by the one who gets there first. I swallowed hard. The weight of his words crushed me. Do you remember why you're here? The warden asked. I shook my head, trying to fight the pull of the abyss. I don't know anymore. The road remembers, he said, and it takes what it needs to keep going. The ground beneath my feet trembled. Are you going to take the road's toll? He asked. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the warden's voice. Suddenly the memories came flooding back, faster, more intense than ever before. I remembered the day I left home. My wife, my daughter, standing at the door calling after me. Daddy, don't go. But I went. I always went. I remembered the truck stop where I passed that family, broken down on the side of the road. I didn't stop. I remembered the face of the girl in the rearview mirror, the one I swore I saw standing in the fog calling my name. It was always the same. I never finished anything, never said goodbye, never took responsibility. The weight of it crushed me. The warden was right. The road wasn't just a highway. It was a prison for every decision I hadn't made. The trailer door slammed open again, the wind screeching as if it had a voice of its own. Inside was me. Not the broken version of me from the past, but the real me, the one who always kept driving, the one who never stopped. The trailer felt cold, sterile. My reflection in the trailer's metallic walls looked older, rougher, like I'd been gone a lot longer than I remembered. What do you want? I asked my reflection. It didn't answer, but it didn't need to. I already knew. The warden stepped back, his hand raised like a judge passing sentence. You can walk away, he said, but the road will keep you in its grip. Every regret, every unfinished journey will follow you forever. I took a step back. The ground quaked again, but this time it felt different. The road was alive, and it wanted me. But I saw the exit. Ahead, the way out, the chance to leave everything behind. I could just walk away. Leave the rig, the miles, the past, start something new. But I knew I couldn't. Not after everything I'd seen. I couldn't walk away from the choices I'd made. I couldn't leave the others on the road. I turned back toward the truck, my hand reaching for the door handle. But as I pulled it open, the darkness closed in. The warden's voice echoed, twisted, with agony. You will drive, you will finish what you started. My heart raced. The road was pulling me in, and I couldn't resist. I climbed into the cab. The engine roared to life, as if it had a mind of its own. My hands gripped the wheel, but my fingers felt cold, as if they weren't mine. Where are we? Going? I whispered to the road, but the answer came back. Wherever it needs you to go. The truck lurched forward, and I drove. I don't know how long it's been since I last stopped. I don't know how many miles I've covered since that. Last choice. The road keeps changing, the signs keep fading, but I keep driving. The voices never stop. I see them now in every mile. The ones I didn't save, the ones I left behind, and they're always waiting for me. Mile 100. The rig rolled down the road. The sky was pitch black, but there was no fog. The air was unnaturally still. Nothing moved except the truck and its driver. A new one. His name was David, but that didn't matter. The road had already claimed him. It always did. David checked his rearview mirror. Nothing but empty, endless asphalt. Should have taken the turnoff back there, he muttered to himself. It was supposed to be a quick run, a couple of hours at most. But there was something about this highway as it felt off, like it was pulling him, drawing him in deeper with each mile. The radio crackled to life, a deep voice distorted, as if coming from the other side of a long, dark tunnel. Keep driving, David, it's almost time. David's hand tightened on the wheel. The voice was familiar, but he couldn't place it. Something about it made his stomach twist. Who is this? He asked, his voice shaking. The voice laughed, a hollow, rattling sound. You'll know soon enough. Don't stop. Don't look back. David's heart raced. He didn't know if he could trust his mind anymore. It was late. He was tired. Maybe he was just hearing things, but the voice, it didn't sound like it was coming from the radio. It felt real. He glanced over at the clock. It was 2:42 a.m., the same time his grandfather had died years ago. The old man had been a trucker, too. David tried to ignore the nagging feeling creeping up his spine. The road stretched on, endless and empty. Mile 105. David's fingers gripped the steering wheel tighter. Something was wrong. The landscape had changed, but he couldn't figure out how. There were no more road signs, no lights. just darkness. No, wait. There was something in the distance, a faint glow. He squinted, and there it was, a signpost. It was an old sign, rusted and bent. The words were barely visible, as though time had eroded them. As he got closer, the words began to form. Exit 100. End. That couldn't be right. He glanced at the mile marker. It was 105. There was no exit. At 100, he hit the brakes, slowing the truck. The fog began to roll in, thick and heavy. A shadow moved in front of him. David's eyes went wide. A figure, tall and thin, appeared from the fog. Its face was hidden in shadow, but it looked like it was walking toward the rig. "Who the hell?" David muttered, his heart pounding. The figure stepped closer, and David felt an overwhelming sense of dread. He wanted to drive away, but something kept him in place, like the truck was rooted to the spot. The figure reached out. "You shouldn't have come this way," it said, its voice hollow and ancient. "The road remembers." David's breath caught in his throat. The voice, it was the same voice he had heard on the radio. He didn't know what it meant, but he knew one thing for sure. The figure was no longer human. It was part of the road. It was the curse. The road stretched on endlessly, twisting and bending into a labyrinth of darkness that seemed to go on forever. There was no escape, no turning back. David's truck rumbled forward, but he was no longer in control. The highway had taken him, and now it was guiding him toward its next destination, a place where the souls of the lost were forever bound, unable to leave. David's eyes glazed over, his mind slipping further into the fog that surrounded him. He felt as though he were drifting in some otherworldly space, caught between waking and sleeping, his consciousness flickering in and out of focus. The voices, the whispers, the constant presence of the figures in the shadows, they were all around him. They had been here before. They were always here. David, the voice, a familiar but distorted whisper, cut through the silence of his mind. "You'll never leave." David tried to ignore it. He couldn't listen to the voices. He couldn't let them take him completely. He had to stay awake. He had to keep his eyes open, but it was so hard. The pull of the road was overwhelming, suffocating. The truck lurched again, jerking him from his thoughts. The headlights illuminated something up ahead, a dark shape in the distance. David's heart skipped a beat. Was it another figure? Another lost soul? He squinted, trying to make sense of the shape. It was hard to see, the fog was so thick, but as he got closer, he realized it was a road sign, or at least it looked like one. The truck crept forward and the sign grew clearer. The words on it were faint, almost illegible, but David could make out the first line. Mile 150, welcome. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Welcome? To what? To the heart of the curse. The sign had no other markings, no indication of where the road was going or what it meant. David tried to look away, but something about the sign drew him in, pulling his attention like a magnet. The truck slowed, almost of its own accord, as the sign seemed to grow larger. The words on the sign changed before his eyes, the letters twisting, warping into something darker. It was no longer welcome. It now read, "Your final destination." David slammed his foot on the gas, but the truck didn't respond. The engine sputtered and died, the headlights flickering out one by one. The truck rolled to a stop, the world around him shrouded in complete darkness. Silence. The fog pressed in closer, the chill in the air becoming unbearable. David's breath came out in shallow gasps, his fingers trembling as he gripped the steering wheel. Something was happening. Something was wrong. He could feel the road beneath him, beneath his skin. It was alive. David. The voice was back, but this time it wasn't just in his head. It was everywhere, coming from all directions. He turned quickly, his eyes darting to the mirrors. But there was nothing there. The fog shifted again, and suddenly the figure appeared. A tall, emaciated form, its face obscured in shadow. David's pulse raced as the figure took a slow step toward the truck, its presence overwhelming, suffocating. "You've reached the end of the line," it whispered, its voice like a cold wind. "The road ends here, but your journey—" "It doesn't?" David's breath caught in his throat. He knew what it meant. He was trapped. The curse had found its next victim. The figure took another step, and David tried to open the truck door, but his hands wouldn't cooperate. His body felt heavy, paralyzed. He was stuck, frozen in place. The figure reached the door. It was no longer just a shadow. It was a presence, something ancient and powerful, its face now visible in the flickering light of the truck's dying headlights. It wasn't human. It was something worse, something twisted and wrong. With a slow, deliberate motion, the figure raised its hand and the door creaked open. David's body tensed, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The figure reached inside, its cold fingers brushing against his face. "Welcome to the highway," it whispered, and the words echoed in his mind. Forever. The truck lurched again, this time with a force. That nearly threw David against the window. His eyes went wide as he realized the truck was no longer moving of its own accord. The road was pulling it, dragging it forward. There was no escape. He looked out the window and saw the figures in the fog, countless shadowy shapes that watched him from the edges of the road, souls trapped on the highway, condemned to wander its endless miles for all eternity. Some had faces twisted with pain and fear. Others were silent, their eyes empty, as if they had given up long ago. David's vision blurred. His mind began to unravel, the pressure of the curse closing in on him, consuming him. He felt his grip on reality slipping away, the road pulling him deeper into its endless depths. As the truck rolled forward again, he heard the faint sound of tires on pavement. The rhythmic thrum was the only thing that anchored him to the present, but even that felt distant, like he was hearing it from far away. And then in the distance, David saw something that made his blood run cold. A light. Bright, blinding. A beacon in the fog. But it wasn't a sign of safety. It was an illusion. The light wasn't meant to guide him home. It was meant to draw him further into the heart of the curse. David could feel the road shifting beneath him, warping, twisting. The truck accelerated again, faster and faster, the light growing nearer with every second. He could hear the sound of the engine roaring, but it wasn't his truck anymore. The road was in control. The light was almost within reach now, and David's body trembled with a mixture of fear and exhaustion. He had no choice. He had to keep going. The road wouldn't stop, and neither could he. The truck was nearing the light, its speed now a blur of motion. He could feel the air growing colder, the pressure mounting in his chest as the light swallowed him whole, and then darkness. The truck's engine sputtered and groaned, but it continued to roll down the cursed highway. The fog was thick and oppressive, swallowing everything around him. The light he had seen before was now gone, replaced by the relentless darkness that seemed to stretch forever in every direction. David was no longer sure if he was even awake. His eyes felt heavy, his body numb. The road had taken everything from him, his sense of time, his will to fight. The truck had become a prison, the wheels turning mindlessly as if they had a life of their own. It wasn't just the road that had claimed him. It was the highway itself. The whispers returned. David. The voice was familiar, like it had been with him all along in every corner of his mind. But this time it wasn't a distant echo. It was real. The voice was speaking to him from the shadows that danced just outside the reach of his headlights. "Do. You want to know the truth?" it asked, its tone seductive and cold. David shivered, his knuckles white as they gripped the steering wheel. He didn't answer. What could he say? There was no escaping this, no running from the endless miles ahead. Morit. Truck suddenly swerved, throwing him against the side of the cab. He gasped, grabbing the wheel to steady himself. "Don't fight it," the voice urged. "You're part of it now." David's heart pounded in his chest. His breath came in shallow gasps, panic rising in his throat. He tried to open the door, but the handle wouldn't budge. His hands were shaking, his mind unraveling, the road stretching on impossibly long. A flicker of light ahead caught his eye. He stared at it, trying to focus. It wasn't the same light as before. This was different. It flickered like a dying flame, barely visible through the fog. The truck accelerated without his command, the engine roaring as it sped toward the light. David had no choice but to watch, unable to stop the vehicle. The light grew brighter and brighter, blinding him as the fog parted. Then the truck stopped abruptly, throwing David forward. He hit the windshield with a sickening thud, but somehow he couldn't feel the pain. He looked out the windshield. What he saw made his blood run cold. The highway had vanished. Instead, there was a vast expanse of desolate land, littered with wrecked vehicles, trucks, cars, all abandoned and decaying. Some of them were overturned, others burned to a crisp, their twisted metal and shattered glass strewn across the barren landscape. The road was no longer the endless stretch it had been. It had transformed into a wasteland, the very earth beneath. His truck cracked and broken, and in the distance something moved, shadows, dozens of them. Figures dressed in rags, their faces obscured by the darkness, moving toward him slowly. David felt his stomach churn. He wanted to scream, but his voice was trapped in his throat. The figures grew closer, and as they neared, David saw that they weren't alive. They were like the shadows from the edge of his headlights, twisted, malformed beings, their eyes hollow and lifeless. They had been here longer than he had. They were the souls of the lost, those who had wandered this highway before him. And now they were waiting for him to join them. A low guttural moan rose from the figures, and David realized with horror that it was a chant, a chorus of voices, whispering the same thing. Forever. Forever. The words echoed in his mind, making his head spin. He slammed his foot onto the gas pedal, but the truck didn't move. It was stuck, immobilized in the middle of this ghostly wasteland. The figures closed in, their hands reaching toward him, their fingers elongated and sharp. David's breath hitched in his chest as one of them stepped forward. A woman, her face obscured by a tattered hood. She reached out toward the cab, her fingers brushing the window. The sound that came from her was a low, eerie hum, the kind that made his blood run cold. It wasn't a sound of pain, but something worse, a sound of something that had given up long ago. "You're ours now," the woman whispered, her voice barely a breath. "You'll never leave." David's heart raced as the figures moved closer, their touch cold as ice. He didn't know what they wanted from him, but he knew one thing for sure. He had to get away. With every ounce of strength, he had left. He pulled the door open and stumbled out of the truck, his legs unsteady. The moment his feet hit the ground, the earth seemed to shift beneath him as if it were alive. He looked around, seeing nothing but the endless stretch of wasteland and the endless shadows closing in. The figures surrounded him, their faces twisted with malice. Some of them were crying, others were silent, their eyes vacant and unblinking. The road had consumed them, and now it was trying to claim him too. "You can't escape," one of the figures whispered, its voice a raspy hiss. "The highway will never let you go." David tried to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The ground seemed to hold him in place, as if the very earth was binding him to this cursed land. He screamed, but no one was there to hear him. The figures closed in, their fingers brushing his skin, icy cold and unyielding. And then a voice, not from the figures, but from the road itself, spoke. "You've come to the end, David," it said. "There is no way out. You are part of the road now, you always have been." David's body went rigid, and he collapsed to his knees, gasping for air. His eyes burned, his vision blurred as the shadows closed in around him, the whispers growing louder until everything was swallowed by darkness. David had become another soul lost to the highway, another name added to the endless list of those who had taken the long, cursed road. His truck, now abandoned, sat in the wasteland, waiting for the next victim to take its place. The highway stretched on, endless and eternal, always hungry for more.